Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. And this video is about destroying the narcissist black magic with white magic. This song is called Lost in the Void by Punch Deck. My coaching and my channel are all about three things. Number one, taking back your power. Number two, stepping into your power. Number three, fighting back. Okay, the music just went down a little bit. It will go down a little bit more in about 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take on a challenging subject. It's actually quite easy once you understand it, but I want to introduce it to you and even teach it to you a bit so you understand what's been going on. Now, I'm going to teach you an NLP technique. It's called anchoring, and I'm also going to add in something called reframing to give you a little bit of what anchoring and what everything we do really is all about. Now, one of the first things I want to say about this is everything that I learned in NLP and hypnosis is something that every single human being does on a daily basis. So the only thing that Dr. Bandler and Dr. Grinder did, and other people, Dr. Erickson, is they discovered things that people were doing unconsciously and went, oh, that's interesting. How can we use that in a way that we can change our lives in a positive manner? In other words, today I'm going to make you very conscious and very aware of something that has been done to you by every single person that you've ever met in your life. And you have done it to every single person that you've ever contacted, met, or spoken to in your life. And yet, you did it completely outside of your awareness. So what is it, and why do we do it? And then, how do we do it? And if you want to know the what if, or have questions, go ahead and ask. Okay, so we're going to start with a what. Okay, a very brief history. So Dr. Twitmeyer, who I believe was an American doctor, psychologist, let's see right here, it says Edwin Twitmeyer. Edwin Burkett Twitmeyer was a professor of psychology and director and blah 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 about stimulus response. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, what we now call anchoring. Now, he discovered it, but the American doctorate group, whatever, just kind of yawned, went, yeah, okay, whatever. They missed a huge opportunity. Because this is therapy. This is what causes your problems. Alright, so now there was another doctor, Dr. Pavlov. Dr. Pavlov, Ivan Petrovich Pavlov, was a Russian and Soviet experimental neurologist and physiologist known for his discovery of classical conditioning through his experiments with dogs. So that's the Pavlovian test, where here's essentially what he did. So he would take a dog that he hadn't fed for 3 days or however many days, and the dog was really, really hungry, okay? And then what he would do is he would open a little slot on the bottom of a wall, and the dog would walk into this room, and then he'd open up another slot on the other side, and he'd shove some fresh food out, like meat, like red meat, and the dog would salivate and salivate and salivate. And then what would happen is when he'd go over to eat the meat, he was really in that very peak, you know, like the bell curve, like going almost to right before it gets to the top, they would ring a bell, they would ring a bell, they would ring a bell. So then they would do this again. They wouldn't let the dog eat for 2 days or 3 or whatever, and then they would let him in the room, they'd shove the meat out, and all of a sudden the dog would get in a really excited state because he's starving hungry, and he's really excited, and while he was going over to eat the meat, while he's in this peak state, they would ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell, okay? And they did this for a period of time. Now, every different psychology book says, some say it was 7 days, some say it was 11. And some say it was that little thing you boing, and you put it to your ear. The doctor does it to see if you can hear it. It vibrates and makes like a noise. So some psychology books say that. So for simplicity, we're going to stick with the bell so you can understand this. So here's what happens. It's a really simple concept. So just like on the computer keyboard, I'm going to push K. Well, that K, that button, it has a, let's call it a wire or a nerve that goes over here and connects to K that will go up on the computer screen. So when I push this button, K goes up. So it's the same thing we can do with humans. So it's the same thing he did with the dog. So here's what happened. He had connected this bell, this noise, to the dog's excitement. So the noise went into a nerve and triggered or stimulated a certain response, which was excitement for food and salivation. So just take a moment and take a look at these 4 pictures. All right, let me walk you through. So in the upper left hand, you have the food, and then you have the dog. So the food is not, NOT is not a conditioned stimulus. There's no connection at all. The salivation is also an unconditioned response, okay? In other words, nothing's connected to nothing yet. So in the top right picture, so we're going from the top left to the top right. So there's a bell. Well, there's still no connection. It's just a bell. He rings a bell. It doesn't mean anything. There's no neurological connection from point A to point B, right? There's no nerve that's connected yet. Now, in the lower left hand, now we have the bell plus the food, okay? So now what happens, the dog gets really stimulated, it's really salivating, it hasn't eaten in 2 or 3 days, it's starving, hungry, gets really excited, and then they ring the bell. They ring the bell, they ring the bell. Okay, so the dog's smelling the food, he sees the food, he's salivating, he goes over to eat it, they ring the bell, and that gets connected to that peak excitement. Now, here's what happens. So then they bring the dog back in the room. He's not hungry. He just ate an hour ago, so he's not hungry. There's no desire there. He's full, and there's no food in the room. He's just there by himself, kind of bored, hanging out, and they ring the bell. Now, this is the bottom right. They ring the bell, and then boom, the dog literally started to salivate, and the dog itself got this really lost, confused look on its face, like, what's going on here? Why am I salivating? Why am I starving hungry when I'm not hungry? That is a stimulus response. That's the Pavlovian dog thing. In NLP, now watch this. This is really cool. So the first thing I want to say, number 1, is at any point in time, you could ring that bell with the same exact tone, and it will trigger that dog to go into sudden, like, salivating excitement, and the dog will, like, not know why, even if it's not hungry. So why would you want to use this, okay? And I'm going to explain that in the second piece in the how. You see, the thing is, these are what we call anchors in NLP, or call it stimulus response, the same thing, it doesn't matter. So the only difference that NLP did is 2 doctors, Bandler and Grinder, came along and said, well, hey, wait a minute, like, well, how can we use this for to create positive experiences? See, psychologists looked at that and said, oh, that's really cool. So they're like, yeah, people have a bunch of negative stimulus responses and a lot of negative depressing things that trigger them to go into like depression or sadness or weakness or whatever. And essentially that was it. So here's what psychology did. I know because I was a part of this. Is we studied everything that was wrong with people. This is really a very important thing to understand. Everything was looked at as negative. Like, okay, oh, you got a nervous tic. Okay, well, you've got anxiety. Oh, well, you've got a phobia. Oh, well, you're scared of dogs. Oh, you're scared of success. You're afraid of this. You're afraid of, oh, you've got a scratching disorder. Oh, all they did was look at the negative. And as multiple psychologists and psychiatrists said in our master practitioner training, they flat out said, that's true. They literally train. Now, we were learning about hypnosis, and Dr. Tad James was talking about how psychologists and psychiatrists are literally hypnotized and brainwashed to see everything negative in a person. So let's say you sat in a chair for 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It's called a 50-minute hour for a therapist. And you scratched your cheek, say twice, or let's say a whole 3 times in 50 minutes. They will literally write that down and say, oh, he has a nervous tic disorder. He needs medication, long-term therapy. Dude, he just scratched his chin for a second. It's no big deal. So a couple of the psychologists and psychiatrists raised their hand and said, yeah, because Dr. Tad James says, hey, was anyone here a psychologist? Like, were you trained always to look for what's wrong? And they're like, yeah, honestly, we did. And one psychiatrist had said, I'm looking back at a lot of my clients. He goes, I realize how many people's lives that I've ruined. Convincing people that they were mentally ill and needed to be permanently medicated for the rest of their life when they just had an anchor. An anchor can be reconnected. Now this connects to everything that I just said, and I'm going to repeat it again. You get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. The field of psychology and psychiatry, well, they studied illness, they studied sickness, and they got really good at installing that into their clients. Well, they had to. Well, that's all they studied. They didn't study health. They didn't go and say, hey, let's study Tony Robbins and find out why he's so happy, why he's so successful. Hey, let's go study this baseball coach and find out why he's the greatest coach ever in the history of baseball. Hey, let's go study this one lady who's really happy, full of love and full of joy. Let's find out what it is that makes her that way. Well, guess what? That's what NLP did. That's what Dr. Bandler, Dr. Grinder, and a group of people did. They started saying, well, why don't we take this and look at it in a positive way? Let's look and see about positive stimulus response and positive anchors. All right, this is literally right on the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge. So we're looking towards the east bay. So we're looking east. What if we turn now? Let's imagine that doctors they were looking this way. They were looking east towards the negative, towards the sadness, towards the sickness, and all that stuff. Okay, they studied that forever, hundreds of years. But Dr. Bandler and Grinder and NLP people turned around 180 degrees and looked the other way and go, oh, wait a minute. There's a whole new world over here with a bunch of brand new doors and a bunch of new openings and a whole bunch of discoveries about positivity. So looking east would be negative and turning around is the positive. All of a sudden they'd walk in one door, which had another 5 doors of, okay, well, why is this person happy? Oh, they've got a positive anchor. Well, how did they do that? Oh, they did this. Well, how did they do it? Why did they go? Oh, well, they reframed it into meaning this, which is a very positive thing. All of a sudden, they started discovering all these brand new doors to happiness, love, peace, joy, confidence, success, wealth, everything you could imagine in life. You get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. If you're a hypnotherapist and all you study is depression, sickness, sadness, or a psychotherapist or whatever, that's all you can give to your clients. Yeah, I can install, and you know, that's what doctors will do. They'll say, okay, here's an antidepressant. And they will literally say this, well, it's going to cause you to be depressed. You're going to start noticing that you have bad dreams. You're going to start having hallucinations. You're going to start having this and having that. And there were doctors in the background that raised their hand, like, honestly, that's what we're taught to tell people, because that's what some of the medications do to you. But imagine you're an NLP trainer, a master hypnotherapist, and all you've studied was the greatest tennis players on the planet, the happiest tennis players on the planet, the happiest couples, the happiest wives. One of the things that Dr. Bandler and Dr. Grinder did was they studied Virginia Satir. They studied something that was outside of her awareness that she didn't realize that she was doing. So she even wrote a book about couples therapy, and there was something she was doing that she had no clue that she was doing. It was completely outside of awareness. It was just through years and years of doing therapy. But the one thing people started to notice, like, wow, her therapy really works. Couples start to be happier. They save their marriages. They live long-term marriages, and they love being with each other. And so Dr. Bandler and Dr. Grinder started asking her questions. She goes, well, what are you talking about? I don't know. I mean, I'm doing this. And they're like, really? Okay. And they would go and try to do that with people. Like, well, that doesn't work. See, that's just what a lot of salesmen do that'll write a sales book. These are things they learned unconsciously over years and years of doing sales. They have no idea what they're doing. So they write a book and they say, I'm a super salesman. Everybody buys the book, but nobody gets the results because the secrets, the unconscious secrets, were not made conscious in the books at all. So I'm going to start calling it anchors because that's what we call it in NLP versus stimulus response, okay? So here's the deal. So here's what goes on. So I'm gonna start teaching you anchors by using examples, okay? So let's say there was a kid that when he was, I don't know, let's say 9 years old and his father died, and he's at the funeral, he's crying, his family's crying, his mom's crying, his cousins, his grandma, grandpa, everyone's crying. It's a really dark, deep, moment. And somebody out of the love of their heart comes up to them and pats them, like comes up on the side and then with their right hand reaches around and pats them on the back of their right shoulder to console them. It's a loving and very kind gesture, but wow, is it messed up. So then a few minutes later, someone else comes up and pats the young man on the shoulder in the same place, and then another one, and then another one. And all of a sudden, what's happening underneath the surface is an anchor, a very powerful anchor, because he's in an extreme, intense state of emotional sadness, is being set. So then about, let's say, 9 years later, when he's 18 years old, he's maybe in high school or Babe Ruth or something. Babe Ruth is younger though, but let's say high school, okay? He's at a baseball game and he hits a grand slam. He saves the team. They win the championship. He runs around the bases. Everybody in the stands is jumping up and down, cheering. The coach is laughing. They're just having the time of their life. His teammates run out of the dugout. He runs across first base. Everyone's hugging him and jumping up and down with them and laughing and saying good job, and then someone walks up behind him and pats him on the back of the right shoulder, and he bursts out hysterically in tears, and suddenly he's in the most deepest depression that he's ever been in. That's an anchor. But wait, there's more. With this Ginsu knife set, you also get... No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so here's the deal. There's also positive anchors, empowering anchors, happy anchors, joyful anchors, anchors of love, of nurturing, even success, motivation, and inspiration. And yes, if you're wondering, this is one of the things I'm trained and certified in, and this is one of the main tools I use, including also reframing. I am a reframing and anchoring machine. So just like a knife, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. In other words, you can make a sandwich for your child to feed them so they can live, or, well, you could stab someone with it for bad. So this is one of the magic tricks. It's not actually magic, if you've noticed. This is one of the magic tricks, the black magic that a narcissist will do to you. So this is about destroying the narcissist black magic with white magic, because you can absolutely use anchors in a very, very empowering and positive way. You can take the very thing that terrifies you the most and anchor that to a laugh anchor, and you can laugh your ass off. Okay, I've got a video right now from years ago, about 7 years ago, maybe 5+ years ago, with Adam from London, where I anchored him to a pen and also to the wooden table. I'm serious, that's all it was. I said, look at the table, and he was laughing uncontrollably. We're put in now. By the time last night, you literally said, "This is what."
This is genius.
Yes. So now is it like you're seeing the light, like the light bulb went on?
I'm just seeing things completely differently in terms of language.
Say a little bit louder.
In terms of language, the way that I feel internally, the way I approach, because a lot of it's about the internal state, the way you feel inside,
right,
to communicate on the outside,
right,
which I think is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say? Oh yeah. By the way, I wanted to ask you something. Do you like this wood?
I do. It's good wood, man.
Take a look at the wood. but you're not hypnotized, are you?
You may have triggered a few stays.
Well, let's look at the wood. Is there anything special about the wood? I have a pen, and watch what happens when I click it.
Oh, dear.
And I want to make sure that you don't look at the wood. I don't want you to imagine the first time you looked at the wood and started laughing now. No, I do not hypnotize people. I put them in. So let me ask you a question. Would you say you've been happier than you've been in a long time?
I felt some pretty high states, man. I'm crying, dude.
Now, this is called anchoring. Now, here's the deal. Believe it or not, but you have done this to people in a positive way and also a negative way unconsciously. But you probably did it well-meaning. In other words, had a very positive meaning. So I'll give you an example real quick. All right, let's say you've got a child who's 4 or 5 years old or 10 years old or 15. It doesn't matter, anyone. And they're crying and they're really in a peak sad state. Do not hug them. Your first instinct is to hug them, but what that does is it trauma bonds them. It links in and anchors in that sadness. So what I'm going to do, because I don't want them to get anchored to me auditorily, visually, or kinesthetically, which means touch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step to the right or the left. I'm going to spin around to the side, out of their view, and then I'm going to point, hey, look up there, look up over there. Oh, look down at that thing right there. What that does is it interrupts their pattern. It is literally called a pattern interrupt. Now, once you snap them out of that state of mind, now you can hug them, and now they're going to connect that loving warmth and hug that love to you and to, the emotion, okay? So once you interrupt the pattern, you take them out of the pattern so they're not there. It's like, hey, what? Like, even a split just, wait, what? That's enough, and then you can give them a hug. You can pat them on the shoulder. So now what they connect with is love and comfort. So there's a new trend on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, or even YouTube in general, of couples basically scaring each other and doing kind of mean things and things that are funny, etc. But what happens is they are linking up that absolute state of fear to that person laughing. So now when someone laughs in that same kind of laugh, it will trigger that fear. Now they're setting up all these really negative anchors. So doing stuff to hurt your partner, scare your partner, and you think it's funny, you're actually linking up in what we call stacking anchors, which is not good at all. It's really, really powerful and really, really bad. And by the way, this is one of the things that narcissists are doing to you from day one of devaluation. They are stacking anchors. So when you come and do relationship dating or couples therapy with me, you're starting to see the difference between going to a regular therapist who doesn't have any of these tools. So my first thing, I'm going to start looking for the negative anchors and listening and paying attention to the reactions, etc. Be like, oh, you just got a negative anchor to his laughter or to his eyes or to his when he winks at you. You connected something negative somewhere down the line. I'm just going to rewire that, no problem. I'm going to now connect this to deep love, deep happiness, laughter, whatever. So you're starting to get an idea of what it is that I'm doing with people. So what is a reframe? A reframe essentially, or I should say an anchor essentially is a reframe. For example, normally when I push the letter K, it prints a K up on my computer. But let's say I reframe that K and then connect. So K would be point A and then point B would be where the wire's connected to put the K up on the computer. So instead I'm going to disconnect the point B and I'm going to reconnect that to O. So now I'm going to go to press K. The letter O comes up instead of K. Well, on a computer that's probably not a good thing. But with a human, if you have a negative anchor where the button where the first point A, a button, triggers B, if it's a negative B, then you're going to want to reconnect that. So let me give you an example. Hold on. All right, so there's different things that there's different stimuluses that can trigger an anchor. It's your 5 senses: see, hear, feel, smell, or taste. Now with Adam, I used a couple. I actually used 3. So I used visual mostly. I said, look at the wood. Or imagine, meaning visually see the wood. So that's a visual link. That's a visual anchor. So that would be A. So when he looks at the wood, it is connected to intense laughter. So what, I'm not going to tell you, it's really kind of hard, like how to explain this. Okay, it's just like the Pavlovian dog, okay? Intense emotional state of salivating and wanting to eat food, ring the bell, ring the bell. So you connect it. So with Adam, what I did was when I got him laughing hysterically, I said, look at the wood, look at the wood. Don't look at the wood now, imagine the wood. And every time he looked at it, he would connect that to laughter. Another way what I will do is what hypnotherapists do, is I'll snap my fingers. So I can transfer the anchor. So let's say I've got him in an intense laughing state. I snap my fingers. And then I say, now once it gets linked up, I can just say, hey, look at something and snap my fingers, and boom, the laughter anchor connects to whatever it is. In this case, it was the wood. So I said, hey, go ahead and look at the wood. Isn't it funny? And he goes, what do you mean? Why is it funny? And I snapped my fingers, and all of a sudden he started busting up laughing hilariously. I go, no, don't look at the wood now. And I'd snap my fingers, and he would link it up even more. So when he hears the snap, that's auditory. When he sees the snap, that's visual. When he looks at the wood, that's visual. Okay, another way we do it is we'll touch you. So I could touch you on your right shoulder, say with my pointer finger, right at a certain point. Just like the keyboard. But if you press K right there on the shoulder, you got to be within an inch. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to push it right at the right spot, or close enough to trigger it. So what we're doing, we could take something like he imagines his ex-girlfriend's eyes, and it hurts him because she hurt him really bad. Well, sometimes people will cross-contextualize and link people's eyes, or maybe it could be women's eyes or a specific kind of woman, eyes, or, it depends on the person's brain. Maybe it could be like dating potentials or relationships, but whatever. And let's say he goes, every time I look at a woman, he goes, I just feel so hurt and they didn't do anything to me. I'm like, oh, okay. So he cross-contextualized, so unconsciously his brain linked that up to any woman's eyes, or what potential dating women that he would potentially date, let's say. So I could find a better state, or like, well, what did it used to be like? It was normal. It was just, casual conversation, nothing, intense. Or it could be, I just felt really happy when I talked to women. So we would link that up. And then I'd say, well, imagine looking into this woman's eyes, and I'd fire off the anchor. So now it brings it back into normalcy. And it's the same thing we would do with couples, because pretty much every time, the person's voice, your partner's voice, their look, their face, their nose, their eyes, even if there's some kind of unusual mark or something, those things can all become anchors. Now watch this. So when I was really young, I'd say about 26 years old, maybe 28, I got my certifications as practitioner, master practitioner, NLP trainer, etc., etc. So I was really, really tuned in. I was doing this stuff, and a friend of mine, Robbie, was a younger guy, probably 20 years old at the time. And he was neighbors with my sister and some friends I'd known somewhere else. And I'd known him for a while. And he came over one day really sad. I was like, man, can you help my girlfriend? She's really suicidal. She's really depressed. She's been seeing a psychiatrist for, I don't know how, maybe it was a year, 2 years, but whatever. And I'm like, well, what's the problem? He goes, Michael, she's really, really sad. And I go, why? He goes, I don't know. Nobody can figure that out. They just got her all loaded up on drugs, and she's not happy. So she came over, a couple days later, and her name was Stephanie, by the way, and his name was Robbie. And she was really sad. Like, it was like she was not a happy person at all. She would just burst out in tears. And I'm like, well, what's going on? I don't know. And she would just instantly burst out in tears. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So literally, I took some water and I splashed it in her face. I literally dipped my four fingers, thumb and three fingers in the water, and I splashed in the face 2 or 3 times. She goes, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, nothing. Please continue. And she goes, well, I have this problem. And she starts to cry again. So I dip my finger and I splash her in the face again. She goes, what are you doing? I go, oh, nothing. Don't worry about that. Like, so what's going on? And I did it a couple more times. And she finally burst out laughing. She goes, why are you doing that? And so I just go, okay, normally I wouldn't tell this to you, but the reason why, I'm breaking your pattern. It's a pattern interrupt. So I said, look, just trust me. Let me do my job, and I promise you, when you walk out that door, you're going to be the happiest person in the world. She goes, really? I go, I promise. You got to understand, she's been seeing this doctor for, I think, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe more. I don't remember how long, but it was a while. She'd also seen psychotherapists and tried a couple other things, and nothing worked. So I started talking to her about it again, and she started explaining her day. I go, let's start at the beginning of the day. So well, I wake up and like, are you sad? Then she goes, well, no. And so we started to do what I call searching. Okay, there's a series of questions and answers and patterns that I'll take someone through to find out like what is triggering this, like what's going on. So we kind of got to a couple things, and one of them was she goes, when I come home from work, when I put my hand on the front door, I instantly burst out in tears. Boom, we got one of the anchors, but we don't have the original one yet. So then it was the doorbell, then it was the chandelier when she walked in, and then it was the light switch in the kitchen. It was the light switch going up the stairs, the light switch in her bedroom, the door handle on her bedroom on the inside. Now here's the kicker. I forget what I said, but I brought something up about her mother, and she instantly, just starts streaming tears. So then I was like, okay, we got something here. And so I got it down to, and she was like, I don't know. She goes, just the minute my mom calls my name, I just burst out in tears. Now here's the deal. At this time, I did not know the mother. I never met her, and I did not know the close relationship that they had. They deeply, deeply loved each other. And this is, I think, what she was bringing up. Like, I love my mom, but I can't stop crying, and I don't want to be around her, but I love her. And it was a really, like getting torn apart. And by the way, this is what happens in marriage couples, in relationships. So I'm going to get the main number one anchor that was cross-contextualized to other things: the doorbell, the doorknob, the front door, the chandelier, the light switch going up the stairs, the whatever in the kitchen, etc., the door handle and light switch in her bedroom. Here's what happened. So she kind of started talking about her mom, and I don't know what it was, but something was like, oh, it's the mother's voice. And I said, what does your mom sound like? And she goes, well, what do you? I go, just try to talk like your mom. Just like act like you're your mom. Like, what would your mother say to you? So she'd go, Stephanie. And guess who burst out into tears? Yeah, Stephanie. So I've got it. So I literally broke her pattern. Hey, look up over there. Hey, what's that? Hey, what's that in your pocket? Oh, this is my calculator. Blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, why do you care? And I'm just breaking her pattern. I'm just distracting her, getting her out of that state of mind, because everything is about state of mind. Getting out of a bad state, going into a positive state. Now, at this point in the therapy, I had already anchored her to laughter. Like I'd say, what's the funniest thing Robbie ever did? Oh, this one time Robbie did this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm anchoring this. She's laughing and laughing and laughing. And I'm like, okay, what's another something really funny that Robbie did? She goes, there was this one time, and she starts going into it, and she's laughing and laughing. I'm anchoring, right? And then we did a couple other ones. Now, this is what we call stacking anchors in a positive way, okay? This makes it much, much more powerful. So we take all these experiences and stack them with the same anchor. Now, while she's laughing, I could have reached out and touched her on her right shoulder or her left shoulder. Or I could have touched my nose twice like I'm scratching it. Or I could have done something that would be unique, and it would stand out like the bell, like Pavlov's dog's bell. So what happened was I had this stacked anchor. This anchor was overwhelmingly laughter. It was just like nothing was going to stop this sucker. This is a tank. It's going to come plowing through. So I go, hey, look up and over there, because I want to get her out of the laughter state. And I'd say, hey. And then I went, Stephanie. And all of a sudden she burst out in the tears. And then boom, I fire off the laugh anchor. And now she's laughing hysterically. I fire off the laugh anchor. And while she's laughing, and I'm firing off. And she's in this extremely intense laughter state, which is overpowering the mom's voice. And I go, Stephanie. And now she's laughing. Now what got linked up, the mom's voice was point A. And now it's connecting to point B to laughter. Now, I know that this was cross-contextualized, so I just thought, well, I'm going to cross-contextualize this myself. So then I would say, hey, imagine walking up to your front door, looking at the front door, and I went, Stephanie! And I do that, she's laughing. She fell out of her chair physically, literally. And I'm like, look at the front door, Stephanie! And she's just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And then I said, look at the door handle. Reach out and touch the door. Stephanie! And again, there's connection. And I go around to her doorknob, to her bedroom door, the inside, the outdoor, the light switches, the kitchen, the bathroom, the toilet, flushing the toilet. turning on the water, like everything. And then I broke her pattern on purpose. And then I said, okay, now imagine looking at your mom's face, and she kind of froze a little bit. And then imagine her saying your voice. And I didn't even say it. She looks and she looks and she's looking. She just burst out into laughter, and she's laughing and laughing. And she goes, I can't stop. I keep hearing her say my name. And she's laughing and laughing. There's a really good end to this story. Yes, this is me at a party in Oakland Hills. The end. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry about that. I can't help. I'm kind of a smartass sometimes. Okay, so here's what happened. So I sent her. Oh yeah, I also anchored to Robbie's nose, to Robbie's one of his eyes, to his teeth, and the way Robbie laughed. Okay, so this builds up a ton. Now what happens is they will cross contextualize to other things. It could be him holding her hand, looking at his fingernail. It could be the littlest stupidest thing, or the way he says, "Hey Stephanie," just it could be his tone of voice. So things will begin to unconsciously cross textualize, and now you got all these positive links building up. A little time went by, not much, but all of a sudden I got a phone call from her mother. Okay. And her mom goes, "Are you Mike Kollin?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Did you work with my daughter?" And I'm thinking, uh-oh. I'm like, "Yeah." Like, fuck. Like, did something go awry? I didn't sit up. I'm like, "Well, yeah, is everything okay?" And she starts to cry and to cry. Now I'm about to cry. And she just sobbingly said, thank you. I don't know how to thank you." And she just said, she essentially said, "My daughter and I have not been happy together for years." And she said something like, "I don't know what you did, but I'm glad you did it." And she demanded that me, her, and her daughter, that we all went out to dinner. She goes, "I want to thank you as much as I can, blah, 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 blah." So we ended up going to dinner. Now, here is a really interesting thing. She knew my mother. They went to high school together. So that was kind of cool, actually. I thought that was really cool. So we talked about old times and stuff. So essentially she knew my father, and she knew one of my uncles, and like we just started, she goes, "Oh yeah, I remember when you guys were little kids, blah, blah, blah." And so she, it was kind of a cool thing. It's like we had this connection without even knowing it. So it was kind of cool. So by the way, this girl here, she's Russian. I think she might have been Russian Ukrainian. I can't quite remember. But the reason why she's laughing is because I'm pushing her laugh anchor. Okay, I'm just kidding. Or am I? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your state of mind. So what am I doing? When I'm anchoring someone, I'm relinking it from point A to B to, say, point A to this other connection. It technically is still B, but we'll call it point A to C now. So once it's reconnected, that's what we call a reframe. We reframe. I do a lot of verbal reframes where I don't have to use anchors at all. There's all kinds of things. I'm not going to get to like that, but essentially here's my point. A state of mind is like from connection point A to point B. So it's a negative connection. It makes you sad. You're just not motivated. You're depressed. So a lot of you guys who have dealt with narcissist abuse, you have a lot of these anchors. A lot of you, it might make your, like for me, my stomach, my solar plexus, it was like, I felt like I got sucker punched. And it got connected to any time I wanted to move forward in life. Like I felt like this tightness, and it was like dark. It was like darkness. It was like, it was not only negative, but the energy itself was like this dark, heavy, like, I don't know, like almost sick kind of energy. For some of you, whenever you, you know what, I have to share this. Because some of you, whenever you go after your goals and your dreams, these anchors get fired off, and they can put you in a state of confusion, a state of fear, a state of anxiety. It can tighten your stomach up, your solar plexus. You can't breathe. You go into panic attack. Narcissists did this on purpose. So you know what? I am going to share a little bit more about that. And by the way, if I haven't made it clear, I can absolutely help you reconnect your anchors and your links and reframe stuff to a much more positive state that actually kicks in to empowerment. Could be a state of love, relaxation. We can also distance the energy from the narcissist. We can shift them to where they're far away, to all of a sudden they don't matter anymore. It's so easy. Literally, it's like reprogramming a computer. I highly recommend you write this down. Imagine the best case scenario for every situation. Your mind will begin to attract solutions. That is fact. Okay, so here's what narcissists will do. This is just a couple examples. Let's say, okay, my friend, former friend, he's a narcissist. His daughter, a beautiful young lady, she was or is an artist, and I mean, like at her age, it was 10th grade, 11th grade, she made these amazing like drawings and paintings, and she gave me a card one time for my birthday, and she designed it. I was blown away. And what happens is this. First of all, they're saying, oh, because I was like, man, True, you are like really, really good at this, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can make money doing this, and etc. And then all of a sudden, the father and the best friend, like, oh, no, she can't. She's not that good. So right there, that little negativity, can you imagine a young daughter hearing her father say that? Can you imagine how fucked up that is, how much that hurts? My family did this when I'd win a boxing match or when I won the state championship. They just ignored me like it didn't matter. And when I came home, when I said I won, they're like, yeah, we don't care. They just walked out of the room, didn't even talk about it, didn't say nothing, just absolutely treated me like shit. So the connection was, this is meaningless. So I'll give you a couple examples. So let's say True is doing her drawings, okay, and she's really into it. She's feeling the emotions, the positivity, the creativity. She's just pouring out her heart. Someone comes in the room and goes, ah, they scream. Well, that gets connected to that passion. That gets connected to that state of mind. So now they do it again and again. They scare her, or they start an argument with her right when she's in the middle of drawing something. She's really focused in the zone, and they argue and fight, and they keep doing it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And next thing you know, she starts connecting anger, loud noises, fear, states of fear, and now all these negative things get connected to her passion, to her art. And then what happens is, how do I say this? Is now those states, once they get linked in, they begin to cross-contextualize and make more and more links to each and every piece of any time she does something passionate with her life, especially artwork. It'll get to the point to where she'll never want to do it again. She'll go, oh my God, I don't know why I liked art. I hate it now, because now she has all these negative states linked up from A to B, like Pavlov's dog, but in a negative way. Let's say you actually enjoyed cleaning your house, or you actually enjoyed doing the dishes. Well, they're going to come along and be like, fuck that. So what they can do is they can connect negativity to that, and next thing you know, like, you don't want to clean, you don't want to do your laundry, you just like, it brings up states of fear and panic and anxiety, or just disgust, like, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this, or you feel drained, you feel exhausted. Believe it or not, the minute you think about doing the dishes or doing your laundry, that anchor gets fired off, and you feel drained, or you feel this negativity. And then what happens is, all of a sudden, the moment you think about doing the dishes, the moment you think about doing your artwork, the moment you think about going to voice lessons or to singing class or choir, that thought triggers off the negativity. And this is why some people just become shut-ins. They become hermits, and they don't want to do anything. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to do their hair. They don't want to do the things that made them feel good about life. We can reconnect everything into a very positive and empowering light. Just like I did with Stephanie, just like I did with Adam laughing at the wood. We could connect that to his work, or dealing with his employees, or whatever. It's as easy as the snap of my finger. You want to say? Oh yeah. By the way, I wanted to ask you something. Do you like this wood?
I do. It's good wood, man.
Take a look at the wood. but you're not hypnotized, are you?
You may have triggered a few states.
Well, let's look at the wood. Is there anything special about the wood? And I want to make sure that you don't look at the wood. I don't want you to imagine the first time you looked at the wood and started laughing now. No, I do not hypnotize people. I put them in. All right, so I hope I'm getting across. Look, that's just one single tool. It is a very simple, well, it's hard to learn, but once you get it down, it's very simple to use, yet it's extremely powerful and effective. My overall message for today is this: you absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 100%, you can change your life. You can shift your emotions. You can change your mindset. You can set anchors that you can access whenever you need. If you need help in professional coaching, go to MikeKollin.com or just get a hold of me. My landline right now is 415-747-8598. That is a landline. That is not my cell phone. Hey, God bless you guys. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this video. If you want to support this channel, please click subscribe, make a comment, click the like button, and you can also make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. Another way is you can buy one of my books, one of my dating relationship books for men or women. Again, go to Mike Kollin, MikeKollin.com, and if you go to the very top, you're going to see, actually, let me go there real quick, hold on. You're going to see a tab for men's coaching and a tab for women's coaching. Click on one of the tabs, and then right beneath there, you're going to see men's books or women's books.